Welcome to Issues That Matter. I'm Cynthia Pula. My guest today is Congressional Candidate Jose Vega, and Jose is running for Congress in the Bronx. And he's going to talk about the encounter that he had with AOC. That was pretty interesting when I saw the video. So tell us what happened.
Oh, you're talking about when I confronted her back in October of 20.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up because I was actually just talking about that time period in general and like sort of the failure that came out of that. What do I mean by that? Well, first, some people should remember if they haven't seen the video. It's a video of me and my friend confronting Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. We call her a hypocrite. We call her a coward for supporting Ukrainian Nazis, for supporting the war in Ukraine, and not actually being an anti-war candidate, not actually doing anything that actually challenges the means of power of government. And that video went like viral for days. It was just everywhere. And it kind of triggered something in the United States where lots of people were sort of doing the same thing for a while, leading up to the election.
So the reason why I contacted you and I wanted to talk to you about this is because um,
Hmm.
AOC now is talked about running for president.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Um, I think a lot of people think she's a fake. So
Hmm.
so I think at this point I think the Democratic Party's a fake.
Hmm.
So we'll see what happens. It's all theater as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, I'm with you all the way.
Yeah.
I don't think I mean the time for her to have run for president was when there was supposed to be an open convention instead of, what they did was they just shoved Kamala Harris down people's throats, you
Uh-huh.
as a viable replacement for Joe Biden. I said that AOC should have thrown her hat in the ring, and I genuinely mean that. Because if she actually wanted to shake up things and actually be potent, completely disrupting the entire structure within the Democratic Party and just trying to leapfrog ahead and say, you know what, I'm not going to play your game. I don't trust anybody to run for president but me, would have made her a renegade, and it would have had a lot of people throw their support for her. And it would have drawn clear lines, and she could have actually shaken up the Democratic Party to the point where they would have gotten their stuff together. The Democratic Party right now, if it ever wants to have a shred of credibility, it requires it to go through a sort of consciousness, a sort of realization and a transformation where it's gonna have to fight out and be, it's gonna be tense basically of like, all the reformations that it's gonna need and all the changes it's gonna take. And that's when AOC should have ran for president. I'm not saying she even is gonna run for president because quite frankly, 2028 is a ways away.
Okay.
It's only 2025. I know people are.
Yes, but I think the press is kind of talking to the people in their audience that this is what's going to happen.
Well, but like that's the problem, because they're only saying that right now when it's really still inconsequential. It really doesn't matter until 2026, 2027, when
Okay.
people actually start putting in there. See, because what they're doing something really gross right now. They're trying to sheepdog people back to the Democratic Party. They
Mhm.
want people to like Bernie Sanders. They want the Democratic base, the more progressive base, to feel like they're being heard. Oh, we hear you. We made mistakes. You're right. So please support insert Democratic drone for 2028. John Ossoff, Hakeem Jeffries. They're going to try something stupid like that. And they're going to, then get people like AOC and Bernie Sanders to sheepdog people back to the Democratic Party. That's what's actually going on.
You know, Bernie Sanders was kicked in the butt a couple of times, but yet he's the spokesman, more or less, for the Democratic Party. If somebody kicked you in the butt, would you want to be their spokesman?
For who exactly? For AOC?
For anybody. I mean, if somebody came up to you and kicked you in the butt, would you go out and vouch for them?
Oh no, God no. I mean,
But
it
that's
depends, but depends. I mean, why did they kick my butt,
But that's what he's doing.
Who's doing? Bernie Sanders?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that's disgusting. I mean, the fact that they conspired to like take, Bernie Sanders out of the race essentially.
Mm-hmm.
They did. They conspired to get Bernie Sanders out of the race, and then they just said, you know what, like, and then he bent over and then ended up endorsing Hillary Clinton anyway. It's disgusting.
Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about your encounter with AOC.
Well, so, I mean, I've had many encounters with her, not just me, but me and my friend. I mean, my friend Kynan was also one of the people who had intervened on her when when we did the when we first intervened on her famously back in October of 2022. He attended another town hall of hers in December, and he actually had a nice discussion with her about the, need to not go to war with China. And like, it was recorded and stuff, and and she seemed friendly, and she said we definitely don't want a war with China. But then she barred us from her town halls going forward, and she never actually, followed through with anything that she said she wanted to do. To be fair, I used to work at a coffee shop the year before I ran for Congress, and she did come into my coffee shop once on Halloween, and I was wearing this like ridiculous Halloween outfit that was one size too small, so I was like pouring out of it. And she walked in on a day and it was like really slow, and I made her cappuccino, skim milk cappuccino, I think, or it was oat or skim, I can't remember. It was an alternative milk, and she was about to scurry out of there, and I turned her and I said, "Hey, Congresswoman, I know we disagree on a lot, but I appreciate what you're saying on Gaza." And she's like, "Yeah, well, on that we agree." And then she walked out.
Wow. Wow. So, so you've done more than one video where you've confronted her?
No, I think just the one.
Okay. Okay. And in that video, what did you confront her about?
Well, I was confronting her about her support for the war in Ukraine. She's
Okay.
voting to mobilize and send money and weapons to neo-Nazis in Ukraine. And she was going off of the foreign policy advice of people like Matt Duss, who said the progressive position is to, you know, enforce and support, Ukraine against their war in Russia. And so I was there confronting her on that.
Okay. And what was her reaction?
She said that I was being rude and that I needed to respect the other people who had questions, and I just said no, there's nothing else on the table. We're on the verge of nuclear war. Yeah. And what was crazy was that when that happened, and then we were on Fox News. Oh well, the video was on Fox News. I was never on Fox News. What was his name? Jesse Waters had
Yeah.
actually had Tulsi Gabbard on, because one of the people I mentioned was Tulsi Gabbard, and I said she left the Democratic Party, you know, and because of its hypocrisy, and you're a coward, basically.
Right.
And so, I mean, AOC's reaction was to try and discredit me from like a a a place of like, well, just try to look for anything to cancel me with. And it didn't work, I mean, look, I mean, I have the support now that I have people who want to support me that while I'm running for Congress and stuff. But she tried to
Mhm.
be a right-wing cultist lunatic.
Wow. Wow. So, do you anticipate any other encounters with her as you're campaigning?
Maybe. I would like
Okay.
to encounter her in the halls of Congress where I will argue with her about foreign policy. She probably has some good ideas on domestic policy, and she could use some polishing up, and I'll be happy to supplement her policy plans with our LaRouche plans.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So basically, you know, what did she say anything to you?
No,
She didn't.
no.
She just sat there and listened.
Well, she just sat there, listened, called me rude, and then, yeah,
Did they kick you out?
yes, they did.
Wow. Wow. So I bet you that wasn't too much fun.
No, it was not. But I'm used
Okay.
at this point.
Okay. So what do you foresee AOC doing, you know, in this coming uh term?
Um,
And what do you think of the little dog and pony show that she's doing with Bernie Sanders?
well, I think that is just something that is supposed to appease the people who kind of felt disheartened after the loss of Kamala Harris. And what they're doing there is they're trying to bring people back and they're sheepdogging them back into a momentum force so that they can then push them all to go support whoever's going to actually run in 2028.
Okay.
Actually foresee AOC running for president, more like senator. I mean, she's definitely going to run for some kind of higher office than just Congress. And I think it more likely she run for Senate than president. But I mean, she did post a picture of her like holding and kissing babies, which is like the most like president channeling thing you can do.
Okay.
Um,
So if she did run against Schumer, do you think she's got a shot of kicking him out of the picture?
well, it's more so if Schumer even wants to do it again. I mean, he's not up for reelection until 2028. You know,
Right.
4 years from now, and he's 83 years old. So I guess he would be 86, and then he would.
I think he's a little bit younger than that. I think he's still in his 70s.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
He, oh, he's 74. You're right. So maybe he could, given our average age of senators, maybe he could do 2 more terms. You know,
Right, right,
uh,
right.
I don't anticipate her winning against him because New York politics is just kind of ugly. That's to be honest, it's just kind of ugly. I mean,
Okay,
like I like this guy Zoran who's running for mayor right now.
okay.
They have him second place in the polls, although some people I've spoken to recently have said that maybe the polls aren't the best indicator because it's really about who comes out and votes.
Mm-hmm.
I have Andrew Cuomo at first place with like 41% of the support, and then Zoran at second place with 14%.
Right.
World, Zoran might be the actual like guy to, would actually be the mayor of New York. He would actually be I just, the favorite, if people were more reasonable, but it seems like the Democratic Party isn't ready for a progressive person. Quite frankly, I don't even believe in the two-party system anymore. That's why I like Zoran. I want to believe in Zoran, but I don't know. I've given up on the two-party system, and I certainly don't trust DSA's judgment on anything, the Democratic Socialists of America's judgment on anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So overall, give us your impression of, AOC, what you did, and where you go from here.
Um, I don't know. I think we should just move past her, ignore her, and just focus on building an independent movement. And if people want to be a part of that, that's what my campaign exists for. We are the building blocks of a real, genuine, independent movement in the country as a whole. So,
But, I can understand that. But we have the two-party system, and a lot of people are not going to jump to an independent party. I think the two parties have to be reformed before you can think about a third party. What do you think?
well, I don't even think I would like a two-party system because right now we have a one-party system.
That's true.
Whether
That's
you're a Democrat or a Republican, you're the another side of the same coin, So a second party would be great, you know. But I don't know. I think the problem is if people continue to think you can just reform the parties, if people just continue to, buy into the same two-party system over and over and over again, they're going to keep getting the government they deserve. And that's the real problem. People get the government they deserve. And if
Mhm.
people are just going to continue to buy into the same system over and over again and not get any real results or real change, well, ultimately the fault is up to those people who failed, in electing somebody else or, getting somebody else involved that would have actually fought for them.
So AOC was a bartender before she she became a congresswoman.
Yeah.
And since she's been a congresswoman, she's enriched herself quite a bit. And I don't think you can enrich yourself the way she's done at $170,000 income. What do you think?
Well, I don't know. I've actually read that that the reports of her being like a rich millionaire are actually exaggerated, and I'm inclined to believe that she's not actually enriched herself. I mean, as somebody who's running for Congress myself, you have to disclose your income.
Right?
You have to disclose what you do, and so you know, I think that I don't think she's actually rich. I think that that's just what people say there's plenty of criticisms of her. But um sorry. There's plenty of criticisms of AOC. I don't think we need to make up things about her, to go after her. I don't think she actually has made herself rich.
Okay. Okay. So tell us a little bit about your campaign. This is your second run against Richie Torres. So if anybody wants to learn more about your campaign, become a volunteer, or give you a donation, how could they do so?
Oh, well, people can support me at votevega.nyc. What we're doing this time around is that our campaign is not a negative campaign. We're not just running against APAC. We're not just running against Richie Torres. We're not even just running against the Democrats and the Republicans. We are running so that there is not an inch on this planet where somebody is living in abject poverty.
Okay.
Running for. That's what we intend to do. That is what our independent campaign is setting out to do, making sure that nobody has to live in poverty ever again. And if people want to be part of that, they can sign up at votevega.nyc.
Okay, and that's your website.
Votevega.nyc.
Okay. So you've been listening to Jose Vega, congressional candidate. I'm Cynthia Pooler. Thanks for coming on my show, Jose, and thanks everybody for listening. And if you like this show, please subscribe and like my YouTube channel. Jose, we shall talk again.
Oh, absolutely.